What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Baddog back with another New York Giants video. As always, thanks so much for clicking on the video. I really do appreciate it. Do me a big favor. If you would, hit the thumbs up. Helps out the video huge. And you guys and girls have been kicking ass with that, so I appreciate it. Leave a comment about the video below. YouTube also loves that as well. Leave a comment of maybe one of the wide receiver free agents you would like the Giants to sign. Also, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell. It's going to be a crazy roller coaster ride here with the Giants this year. I'll be live tonight at 10 o'clock. We can talk about this or any other Giants stuff you want to talk about. A lot of Yankee playoff baseball coming up here. The Giants, of course, trying to do videos all the time, live streams. It'll be live on Friday night with my guy Law Nation, a big Cowboys content creator. He's going to come on the channel. We're going to discuss the big game between the Cowboys and the Giants on Monday nights. Hopefully, you guys and girls will tune in for that. Thank you for watching. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the video. Per Pro Football Network, Coach Brian Daboll has been FaceTiming free agent wide receivers. So what does it mean for the Giants? You know, it's funny. Coming into the season, you looked at the Giants wide receiving core, and while you may not have called it deep, you said to yourself, well, there's a lot of talent in that wide receiver room, but there was a lot of question marks about it. Darius Slayton, right? He dealt with a lot of injuries. He had a great rookie season. He kind of fallen by the wayside, maybe not falling out of favor, had a lot of drops. His production was down. Didn't have that chemistry he had with Daniel Jones in his rookie year. You had the $72 million Kenny Golladay come over here, had a very disappointing season last year, didn't score one touchdown. Or left tackle Andrew Thomas had more touchdowns than the $72 million wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Then you could add to the mix the number 20 overall pick from last year, Kadarius Toney. You could add his touchdowns or Kenny Galladay's touchdowns, and they still don't add up to the receiving touchdowns of our left tackle, Andrew Thomas. But you looked at it, a lot of people said, well, that's Joe Judge, and that was, that's Jason Garrett's offense. These guys are going to be fine. And you said, wow, there's a lot of talent. You're getting Sterling Shepard back coming off the torn Achilles tendon. You drafted Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round. But Brian Daboll made a bold declaration right at the beginning of training camp, or maybe not the beginning of training camp, in training camp, said, listen, the guys that earn playing time are going to get playing time. Well, Kenny Golladay hasn't earned the playing time. He had 2 snaps against Carolina. Kenny Golladay had a terrible camp. A lot of talk about him dogging routes, not hustling, not laying out, not doing the things that, he should be doing, although Daboll always seemed to say he's doing what we want him to do. And then you had Kadarius Toney, again, spent a lot of time on the injured list in training camp, missed a lot of time in training camp. He had 7 snaps in week 1. Now, it didn't seem to be a big deal for Kadarius Toney. He said he was just glad they win. And then there was a whole thing about Kenny Golladay leaving the locker room early and all this other stuff. You could take that for what you will. Players said a lot of players do that, but still, I don't think that it's a good look. He has certainly disappeared. And Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, they've stuck to their guns. Richie, James, David Sills, the Sterling Shepard, these guys are the ones getting a playing time. Now, of course, Wan'Dale Robinson's got a bum knee. But what does this mean that he's FaceTiming wide receivers? Does it mean that he's looking to move Kadarius Toney? They can't get out from underneath the contract to Kenny Golladay, really, no matter what they do. Because, like I said in the last video, as far as I know, his cap hit is more. If they got rid of him, it's more expensive to get rid of Kenny Golladay than it is to keep him. So does Kenny Golladay just ride the pine? Do they run him out there a few times? Kenny Golladay has been it has not worked. Let's just be honest, whether who the coaching staff is, who the quarterback is, who the offensive coordinator is, it hasn't worked with Kenny Golladay. So, you're thinking to yourself, well, who do the Giants use? Do they really want to go with Richie, James, David Sills, and Sterling Shepard as their starting wide receiving core? Is that the way it's going to be? What I do know is that I seriously doubt Kadarius Toney or Kenny Golladay will be here past 2023. That I can say. I do believe Kenny Golladay is out the door next year. I think they'll hold on to Kadarius Toney one more year unless they could trade him. Now, let's talk about some of the players. Now, when they talk about who he's FaceTiming, there are no actual names. There's no specific names that they've come up with that he's been FaceTiming, but we can go over a couple of these names, and you can let me know who you think or who you would want to be a New York Giant. And the first name that every Giants fan's name is Odell Beckham. We've heard this rumor before. We've seen his tweets on Twitter talking about how he loves seeing Saquon do this. Give me the bag. I'll come back to the Giants, all this stuff. I'll be honest. I don't think Odell Beckham would need a ton of money to come back here. I don't. Would he take it for the league veteran minimum? No. He still wants his money. But that's the first name that comes to everybody's mind now. You think to yourself, oh, he'd be a great fit. We'd love to see Beckham back. I'd love to see Beckham back too. But is Beckham in the future plans of the New York Giants? No. But are any of these free agent names I'm about to mention in the future of the New York Giants? Probably not. So a reunion with the Giants and Odell Beckham? I'll have to wait and see. I've been saying since the day he got traded, there's a part of me that feels like he'll retire a New York Giant, that he will finish with the New York Giants. Like that'll be the end of his career. This is the last team he's going to play for is the New York Giants. That's to be determined, right? But I have some reason I have a feeling he's coming back here. Maybe not this year, but I feel like he's coming back here. So they were also interested. Cole Beasley made a lot of sense. He obviously played with Daboll in Buffalo, but I think he ended up getting signed by Tampa Bay. So obviously Cole Beasley is not a guy that could be here. T.Y. Hilton is a name that pops up now and again. He was a really good wide receiver for the Colts, but it does seem like T.Y. Hilton wants to play for Indianapolis, and that's really the only team that he would go back to. So I'm not sure if that would make any sense for the Giants to bring in T.Y. Hilton. Emmanuel Sanders is another one. Obviously, he's been a very productive receiver. He was productive in Denver. He's played with Coach Daboll as well in Buffalo. So that's a guy that definitely is a possibility, in my opinion. Of all these names that I'm mentioning, I think Emmanuel Sanders could make the most sense, although he's more of a slot receiver. And we have so many of those. Shepard's considered a slot receiver. Tony's a slot receiver. Wan'Dale Robinson is a slot receiver. Do you really need another slot receiver in Emmanuel Sanders? It just makes sense because if you're coming into the middle of a season, you would have some grasp of the offense. You wouldn't be that far behind, or you're trying to learn a completely new offense. So I don't know how far apart. I think it's Daboll's offense and Kafka just calls the plays. I don't know how much influence Kafka has on the playbook itself. I know Kafka's got to stop being too cute down by the goal line. That's something I've seen in a couple of games. Just run the ball with Saquon Barkley, baby. We got Saquon back. Just run the ball with Saquon Barkley, especially against Dallas. Don't be cute. We're going to need to score 7 points instead of 3s against them, but I digress. The last one that I do think makes sense is Will Fuller. And the reason I think Will Fuller makes a lot of sense is because he's an absolute burner. Now, granted, we all lose speed as we get older. You don't get faster as you get older. But Will Fuller gives you a legitimate outside speed burning threat. It's something that we don't have. You could consider Darius Slayton our speedster. He ran a 4.39 at Auburn when he came out of college, but he doesn't see the field. Sterling Shepard, I love him. He's not a speedster. Kadarius Toney's not a guy that's just going to run by the defense with flashing 4.3 speed. Kenny Golladay is certainly not that guy. Richie James, David Sills, those guys are not just straight out track running speed wide receivers. Will Fuller definitely is. Now, Fuller has dealt with some injury problems in his career as well, but then again, it seems like every one of our wide receivers deals with it anyway, and I seriously doubt Will Fuller would cost a lot of money for the New York Giants. I believe they have just over $5 million in cap space if they did want to go out and get a free agent wide receiver. So those are some of the names that I'm reading here. And let me give credit to the guy who did this. This is Jordan Dahani from CBS Sports. This is where I got this article from. So those are some of the names he mentions, and they make a lot of sense. And I find it very interesting that Brian Daboll is FaceTiming wide receivers because, like I said, this tells me, and I think any Giants fan with some common sense understands that when you see the fact that you got a guy $72 million not playing, you have a number one, a first-round pick not playing, and they're playing guys like David Sills and Richie James who really much came off the scrap heap, and they're the ones getting the snaps regardless. I think it goes to show a lot that Daboll and Kafka don't believe in these two guys because, listen, we're 2-0, and I understand that, and I love being 2-0, but if you're sitting there and you're looking at that roster, you're thinking to yourself, does starting David Sills and Richie James really give us a better chance to win than starting Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay? That's the question. It's a head scratcher. How do these guys not get on the field? You got a guy that earned $72 million because he led the league in touchdowns, had 1,000-yard receiver, had 1,000-yard receiving years, and you got a guy with incredible quick twitch skills, the ability to make defenders miss in the open field. He's electric. He's a guy that looks like a home run hitter. You picked him 20th overall. Well, Daboll didn't pick him 20th overall, but the Giants picked him 20th overall. And You're thinking to yourself, how does Richie James and David Sills get starts over him? But it doesn't look like Daboll, Shane, Kafka, doesn't look like any of these guys are sold on Kadarius Toney or Kenny Golladay. And now it looks like they're trying to bring in some more talent so that they could start a guy like maybe Will Fuller over David Sills because you could look at the thing, go, well, I don't think David Sills and Richie James can produce. Well, you got Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay sitting right there and they're healthy, but they're not playing. So I think this speaks volumes as to how little Brian Daboll, Kafka, Shane, all these guys feel about Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay. I guess only time will tell. What I do know is we're 2-0, and I want to continue that role. Hopefully the Giants continue to win, and they can get it done. That would be awesome. And again, quick shout out to the sponsors. As always, when you're watching the game, when you're watching me tonight and you're coming by and hanging out the line, make sure you go get yourself a pint of Nick's ice cream, man. It's the best ice cream you can find. I swear to God, it's amazing, man. I eat a pint of it every night. I work out like a fiend. I'm very regimented about my diet, but I always have room for a pint of Nick's ice cream because it's about half the calories of its competitors. It's awesome. The texture's fantastic. I've had a lot of people come on my channel, DM me on Instagram, DM me on Twitter, and tell me, Baddog, I love Nick's. Thank you for that. So make sure you guys are checking out Nick's ice cream, for sure. And while you're eating your Nick's ice cream, you make sure you go to mybookie.ag. There's a lot of football coming up this Sunday. There's college football on Saturday. If you want to play some bets, some parlays, some prop bets, all that good stuff, you go to mybookie.ag. They ask for the promo code. You put in the promo code BADDOG. That's one word, BADDOG. Links to both of those guys are in the description. You enter that promo code, MyBookie will match up to 100% of your first deposit, all the way up to $1,000. So if you deposit $500, they'll give you $500. You can play with $1,000. If you just want to put in $50, they'll match $50. You can play with $100. I mean, what's better than free money? I don't know if anything is better than free money. So go to mybookie.ag. Put in the promo code BADDOG, place your bets, and enjoy the football. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, if you made it this far, you're an absolute trooper. Please hit the like, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and come by tonight. We'll talk more about it. It's a bad diggity dizzle, and I'm out. Peace.